Welcome back to Disabled Farm School.
Hi, Junie. Boy, there's a puppy. There she is. I don't know if you can see her at all.
Yeah. Gosh, there's nothing like water. Hi friends, welcome back to Disabled Farm School. I am Rachel, and this week I'm going to talk to you about how to start a garden for free, or basically free. And I'm going to walk you through different ways to get what you need to start seedlings, little plants, without spending any money or hardly any money. There's a lot of reasons you might want to do this. One, I think it's fun. I think it's really fun to reuse stuff. I think it's really fun to find ways of doing things that are unexpected, don't automatically rely on buying stuff. It's fun. Number two, the economy is crashing. Now, I'm not actually talking about myself, Rachel economy. This time, I'm actually doing pretty good today, despite being chronically ill. I'm talking about the bigger one, specifically North America, specifically in the US. And, whatever your feelings about that, it might be nice to be able to start a garden without spending a lot of money. Also, just so you know, the word economy, it comes from the Greek word oikos, the place where things live or the home, and then the nomi part comes from the successful management of. So it's the good management of the home, the place where we live, like the earth or the household. So a part of what I think the good management of the household is growing food for ourselves and our neighbors and our communities, and also reusing stuff. Another reason this might be of interest to you is because these are really fun things to do with kids, and a lot of people's sticking point for accessibility to gardening is money. A lot of the ways people get around that sticking point is by using things like physical ability. So, thought it was a tick. Sorry, little bug. So, for example, I built a bunch of cages to keep the squirrels and birds and gophers away from my soybean plants. It took me a while because I needed to pace my energy. Some people can't do that at all physically. Hi. So they could buy like a cloche, like a pre-built mesh thing to cover their plants to protect them. But that costs money, which means that accessibility becomes a thing that you have to have enough money to afford in gardening. And I'm not cool with that. I think everyone should have access to gardening. And that's sort of the whole premise of this channel. Other reasons you might want to start things for free could be because you don't know if you're actually going to be able to maintain your garden, whether that's for your disability reasons or any other reasons. Time, your jobs, your space, you're a renter and your situation might change. And you don't want to invest a ton of money into it if you don't know that you're going to be able to stick with it or get a return on that investment. And so there's lots of ways to do all of these things at the beginning for cheap or free. And I'm going to talk to you about some of them today. And the bonus part is, like I said, there's crafts involved, or there can be crafts involved. So this could be a fun thing to do at a party, a good way to bring friends over and share in a seated activity in gardening. And it helps get rid of some stuff around the house that you might have piling up if you, like me, struggle to clean your house when you're not feeling well, or when you have children, or when you have a busy schedule, etc. We all have limits and opportunities. Let's turn some of our limits into some opportunities. Here we go. So we're going to start some seedlings, and we're going to do it entirely with stuff that I found around my house. First of all, this is a little glass jar that some yogurt came in. Now, some of these you can return for bottle credit and you get some money back at the grocery store. This one does not have that written anywhere on it, or at least I couldn't find it. So I kept it, and I'm going to plant something in it. Things like this don't have drainage holes, so the way that you water them and what you plant in them might be a little different than what you plant in something that can dry out, and then be watered again. Just something that doesn't mind having its roots wet more of the time might go in something like this. The one we're doing today that I'm really excited about because I have endometriosis and it affects my bladder, and I have a lot of these toilet paper tubes. This is fun to do with kids. It's a great reuse of a resource that is effectively coming from trees, and it takes way less energy to recycle them this way than to put them through the recycling system. So you're going to basically turn this into a little seedling that you can then plant whole cloth in the ground. You don't have to pull it out of its seedling pot. So if you want to start root crops as seedlings, which is generally recommended against, you can do it this way because it won't disturb the roots when you put them in the ground, because you don't have to take them out of the pot. So I've basically made just a little foldy box on the bottom. I'll show you how to do that right now. To turn a toilet paper tube into a seedling container, you need a pair of scissors and a toilet paper tube, plus soil and a seed. Probably want to label it, so a pen. You can write directly on the toilet paper tube. Having a panting dog by your side is an additional bonus. You getting hot? It's very hot out. You want to go inside? You go in. No, you want to be next to me, but also panting. Okay. How to turn a toilet paper tube into a seedling pot. You're going to cut 4 about 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch slits, about equidistant around the bottom. You're going to fold each one of them down towards the inside. Try to fold them at the same level. You're going to go over, under, like you would fold the top of a cardboard box when you're moving, and then put the last one over, under, if you can. There you have it. We've got a seedling pot. So we'll plant into those in a minute. Another thing I'm using as a seedling pot today, this is a mason jar that I somehow managed to chip only the bottom of, so it's got a drainage hole. So I cannot use it as a jar. It can be a planter. Finally, today as a plant pot, I'm using this beautiful mug that I completely cracked the handle off of. Lovely. Once you've got your seedling pots, you need soil. Now, soil is often the hardest thing to get for free because it is kind of the most important starting place in gardening. But you would be surprised how many people have really high quality potting soil that they have like 1/8 of a bag left of just sitting in their apartment, in their garage, just not doing anything with it. So the way I got potting soil for free, I posted on my local Buy Nothing group. I said, does anyone have some of this just sitting around gathering dust? People totally did. And you don't need that much to start a few seedlings. Seeds are less particular about soil as they become larger plants, although plants do have soil needs. But potting soil, especially for small seeds, can be really important, so you might want to get nice stuff. See if any of your neighbors or anyone in your community has some left over that you can reuse. Or go watch my video on how to make your own potting soil for cheap using mostly what you have on hand. Now that'll depend on your resources and your circumstances. If you have your own compost running, then the nutrient part and the organic matter part is covered. If you have a yard or a garden that you can pull soil from, then the native soil or in-ground soil part is covered. If you have straw around that you can use to create structure, or coconut coir left over in your neighbor's garage, you can make your own potting soil for free or for cheap. If you don't want to make your own, ask around and see if you can find some. That's what I did. So I've got my bucket of potting soil. Now I need a seed for a plant cutting. Here's how I got those for free. This is a jar of yarrow seeds. It's the yellow yarrow. It's one of my favorite flowers. When they bloom, they're very complex compound flower heads turn into just a ton of seeds. And most people who grow them ornamentally don't actually care if you just cut off one of those seed heads and turn it over into a bowl and get yourself some yarrow seeds. So if you see a plant going to seed out in the wild, you might need to look up, does this plant, and it's called seed true, like can I save seed from it and get the same plant again? But we know yellow yarrow does that. And so these are from a neighbor that I asked if I could cut off the top of their yellow yarrow once it had gone to seed. And they were like, yeah, we were going to deadhead it anyway. That's what it's called when you take the dead flower heads off of flowering plants. So I'm not encouraging you to steal from your neighbors. Knock on their door and ask them. I don't think they will mind. That's one way to get seed. I did the same thing with this coreopsis seed that I'm going to try planting today. Another way you can get seeds for free is to save them from your own garden. And that's how I got these pole beans. Now this may look like a pack of guitar strings, but it is in fact pole beans. They came from green beans that were grown a couple years ago here, and they were a bumper crop. They were really robust, and I thought, you know what, let's save these. So those are the green beans. One of my favorite ways to get free seeds is check with your different local libraries. Some of them will have a seed bank. It's free. It's a seed exchange where you can save seeds and bring them and leave them there, or get seeds. And I got some dill from a library nearby me that was donated in 2024, and I've planted some of it already, and it sprouted, and it's going to be great. I grow dill for pickles, and I really wanted to grow a lot this year, and I forgot to buy seed, and I realized it at the last minute that I got cucumber seeds, but no dill. So, the seed bank. This one is always a bit of an adventure. Go into your kitchen. Some of the things in your kitchen are, in fact, seeds. Actually, a lot of the things in your kitchen are probably seeds. Some of them you can grow into plants. I have planted this year some heirloom black beans from a packet of dry black beans that I had in my cupboard. Again, looking up whether those seeds tend to seed true or they cross very easily with other varieties or cultivars can be helpful. I went for it. I'm going to see if I can grow some black beans. Depending on how much space and willingness to experiment and try things and fail you have, that can be a great option. What I'm trying today is a big adventure for me because I've never done it. It is peanuts. I can't do that. So these are in shell, raw, unsalted peanuts. And I have really high temperatures on this back area behind the apartment that I rent. And I would really love to grow some peanuts and make my own peanut butter. They are a great storage crop. You can do a lot of things with them, and you can grow them in containers, which I didn't know, and I found that out last year. So I bought some peanuts at the grocery store to eat, and I kept a bunch of them for seeding, and we're gonna try that today as well. Now, if you wanna start your seedlings inside or somewhere outside that gets rather hot, you might want a tray under them to catch water. Here's how you can do that for free. You can use a heavy-duty cardboard box. I don't actually drink yerba mate. I don't know how I got this, but this is a great little seedling tray, partially because it's a low profile, so when a seed is really just sprouting, even a slightly taller tray around it can create so much shade that it doesn't get enough light, but this is pretty low. Also use, now you may recognize this from another video that I filmed. This is theoretically a disposable barbecue pan. Sorry, I'm just shining light at the screen. But I've used it a bunch of times to cook, to harvest salt from saltwater from the ocean, and to save seeds, do a bunch of stuff. This one is a little the worse for wear, and so I'm gonna use it as a seedling tray. Oh, and then here's the last thing. Well, okay, so also over here, I've got a baking tray that was rusting that a neighbor offered up on Buy Nothing that I thought, yeah, I'll use that as a seedling tray. The last thing that I'm going to try as a seedling pot is this compostable coffee tray. This is for carrying hot drinks back to your car when you've got more than two, or back to wherever when you've got more than two. And it's got little holes already in it for drainage. And my thinking is that I will pack some potting soil in there, plant it, and then instead of having to pull the plants out, you can just cut it apart with a pair of scissors or a knife when it's time to plant. So we'll experiment with that as well. Okay, it's getting way too hot out here, and I'm also definitely getting sunburned, so I'm going to relocate inside. I've been making some of the toilet paper pots, toilet paper tube pots, and I'm going to use the tray, the baking tray, to sort of keep my work area from getting covered in soil indoors, which is a good hack for accessible planting indoors. See you in there. Hi, it is very clearly a different day. I've got soil in a bunch of these DIY seedling pots. Basically, just taking one. It's got its little fold on the end, and I'm just scooping the soil up and then pressing it in with my thumb, and I'm doing that twice. And that makes sure that the soil is really packed in there, and I'm filling it almost to the top. And then putting it back in. So I'm gonna finish that up, get them all filled with soil, and then plant some plants. In the days between when I last filmed and today, I did liberate some plants and seeds from some sidewalk strips. This is a red yarrow blossom that has gone to seed, which I'm really excited about. I also managed to abscond with 2 actual seedlings, 2 little guys with roots from the red yarrow. To be clear, this is like overgrowth in a sidewalk strip. I'm not walking into people's yards and stealing their plants. And then my neighbor had a bunch of Japanese maple volunteers, so I've got some of those in a jar of water. And I like to use them to container garden, which keep an eye out here and make sure you subscribe, because we've got an upcoming video on container gardening, including for food plants, and how you can do that with limited space or to make things more accessible for yourself and less accessible for gophers and other critters that would like to eat your food before you get to. So I'm gonna finish filling all these up and then get to planting. I hope you'll join me. All right, so we've mostly got these full. I'm gonna plant my peanuts, which I got in the bulk section of the grocery store. These are organic, unsalted, raw peanuts. And I'm trying to keep the skin. So you have the shell, the outer shell, and then you have the skin on the peanut itself. And that helps protect the seed, so I'm gonna try to keep that as intact as possible. In general, with seeds, you look at their sort of short width, the distance across them, sort of the diameter short ways, and you want to plant them twice that deep. You can estimate. This is a pretty big seed. It is also a seed that produces tubers, right? Peanuts are a tuber. They come off of the stem underground, I believe. So they're not a root, but they do need to grow in the soil, and you can mound soil on them to get more of them. So I'm just gonna basically poke a hole in each of these and drop the peanut in. So I'm gonna go, well, I might have packed these too tight. Ugh, learn from my mistakes. Drop it in and then cover it up. I'm gonna give it a press down once. By the way, I'm doing this seated, and this is a desk that I don't mind getting dirty. This is a way to garden if you are housebound. Get a buddy to help you prep the stuff. If you need to stay seated and accessing outdoor gardening space is hard, or you're trying to keep stuff up off the floor for whatever reason, this is a great way to garden indoors. And if you don't have an outdoor garden but you really want to participate in gardening, you can do this in your house or apartment or wherever you live, and then connect with someone who does have a garden space, or apply for a community garden plot, or whatever way you want to connect these food plants to getting in the ground somewhere. And it can be a really fun project to do with a neighbor who does have space. There are a lot of people who really want to garden, but they're scared to do it alone. And that might be you, but it also might be your neighbor or someone down the street. So ask around. Okay, I just totally forgot which one I already planted. Hang on. Was it this one? Yes, there's a peanut in that one. Okay, I'm focusing now. Okay, we got it. Let me introduce you to all my new friends. This box, we've got the red yarrow, all the Japanese maples, and then I planted some coreopsis. Got the pole beans in the coffee holder. They are inside the tray. And then the peanuts. Oh, that's heavy. I kind of planted a lot of them because I don't know how to do this yet. So I'm just covering my bases a little bit. I'm going to do it in containers, big containers. And the cool thing about growing tubers in containers is then when you want to harvest them, you just dump out the container. You don't have to dig for anything. I think this is going to work. I hope it's going to work. Let me know in the comments what from around your house you are going to try using to start a seedling this spring. If you have other ideas besides the ones that I've talked about in this video, share them in the comments so other folks can use them too. Thinking about, I used to make newspaper pots with kids, or even all the cardboard that all the stuff we have shipped to us these days, especially often as somewhat housebound folks or parents, or, for whatever reason, if you're needing your errands to come to you rather than you go to your errands, you probably have a lot of cardboard around. And that could be a way to make little more 4-inch pots, but thinking about how to do that efficiently. The last time I checked, masking tape was compostable, so get creative with that. And let me know what you try and what works for you, and what your other resources or ideas are for starting a garden for free. As always, thank you for joining me here on Disabled Farm School. I am on the road to try to get 1,000 subscribers, get this channel fully up and running. So if you're not subscribed and you'd like to join us here, I post about every week. I'm still figuring out how to do scheduling with unpredictable disability, and that's part of what we talk about here. I will see you next week here on Disabled Farm School, where gardening is for everybody, and we're just trying to figure out how together.